Hey guys, so I thought we would take this no practice day to talk a little bit about your stick and stick stringing. I don't think everybody needs to know how to string a stick, but I do think everybody should understand how their stick works. Most of the best players in the country tend to be a little bit obsessive about their sticks, tweaking it, making sure it's doing exactly what they want to do. These things are going to be put under duress. They're going to get checked. They're going to be in different types of weather. So it's important that there's constant maintenance on our stick. And if we can get multiple sticks and try things out, if we're at that level where we've made the commitment to the game, I would suggest it too. Let's start with the objective. What are we trying to get out of these sticks? What do we want them to be able to do? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between offensive players and defensive players. But number one, what we want is consistency across the board. More than anything else, we want these sticks to be able to throw consistently. That means accurately throwing in the same spot each time. And that means out of any different possible type of pass we could throw, quick, slow, multiple cradle, one cradle, quick stick, hands high, hands low, underhand, sidearm, any different angle. We want these sticks to be very, very, very consistent. I see a lot of young players lazily throw the ball at the wall and think that their stick's throwing fine. Remember, these things are going to have to serve you in times where you're running full speed, you're throwing full speed, you're shooting the ball, you're carrying with the ball. So you need to have a very, very high standard for how these things perform. We're going to talk about common themes of what we want to go for with our sticks and how to diagnose some problems, but know that the main objective here is consistency. Let's start with two big differences between offensive and defensive sticks, and then we'll work from there. Defensive sticks should generally have pockets that are a little bit higher, at least the ability to have a pocket that's a little bit higher. This wouldn't be a great defensive stick because there's not really an opportunity for the ball to be held here in the high pocket. The reason we do that as defensive players is because a lot of the time we're going through traffic with our stick inverted like this. And so a stick that allows the ball to sit a little bit higher in the pocket is useful. Offensively, one big thing that we want is this bottom string to be strung in such a way, it might be difficult to see here, but strung in such a way that the laces, the hockey lace or the sidewall actually loops down and around. And I've anchored it to the side here, so I've used an extra hole in the sidewall. But the idea is that this ball kind of sits in a pouch here, and this isn't illegal. As long as the ball rolls out when I tip it over like that, this is not illegal. What this does is give me an extra advantage as I carry the ball one-handed. Those are some major differences. That's not as important for a defensive player. Let's talk more broadly about stick consistency. All right, general theme, and probably the number one thing about consistency with a stick is that we want to have this stick strung in a way that the top is the very tightest, and as we move down the stick, it gets looser and looser and then creates this pocket. We also want wide diamonds. You want to be able to see this pocket just like this, these wide diamonds. You don't want to see bunching. You don't want to see the stick bunched in different areas. You don't want, after you shoot the ball, you throw the ball hard, you don't want this stick to kind of be bunched up like this. This is going to tell me that the stick is inconsistent, it's whipping, it's catching under laces, and it's not going to serve you well when you start playing fast. So you want to get this gradual ramp. You can see it right here. This is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this stick right now. You could see plenty of pocket here to hold the ball, but we're not talking about a lot of whip. That ball is going to come out consistently right here. All right. We are okay to build a stick that can hold the ball well. We want that to happen. Hold is very different than whip. When we talk about whip, what we're talking about is the ball catching under these laces so that on a shot, we could shoot a little bit harder by the ball sitting under here. We can expand our motion on that shot a little bit longer and get a couple miles per hour increase in our shot speed out of it. To me, it's not worth it, guys. We want consistent sticks. Most of the time, we're going to get into good shooting spots by driving it in or by passing it in. We are not going to try to shoot from less good spots harder and expect that to work better than shots with a little less speed, but from a better spot. So we want to design these sticks offensively, defensively, to be like we're going to be point guards. They can do a variety of things. They can shoot, they can pass, they can drive, they can move through ground balls. They can sit with us they can hold the ball as we do any combination of moves. So that's really, really important. Just going through the details of that. This top string right here, this string you want to be extremely tight, and you want it to be square on the frame of the stick. So you could see right here, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. This is kind of a fancier way to do it. Whoever strung this knew what they were doing. They looped the string up here a couple of times, but either way, most important thing is this is extremely taut and that it's square on the stick head. So if you do experiment stringing on it, my suggestion is you anchor this string to the sidewall right from the start, or the mesh right to the sidewall, so that you get it centered on the stick. A stick will throw the ball right or left if the mesh is not aligned right in the center. Some of you guys know what I mean when I say a stick that's a little bit louder or a little bit softer. I mean that little clicking sound that comes when you throw the ball. I don't think that's a big deal. You don't want a big click. That probably changes the consistency of the pass. But what that clicking is just the ball coming out of hitting the plastic a little bit. If you don't like that, you can pull the mesh up and restring this top part. That will help it to quiet it down a little bit. Moving down here, you'll see that I use a sidewall lace here. This again is to add some integrity to the mesh. You want to maintain, you don't want to be playing around with this part of the stick right here. You don't want to be holding your stick when you're listening to coach by this or pounding this area in. This area is pretty sacred for the stick. We need to make sure this area stays nice and taut because this is the release point here. All right, so I like to put a sidewall string in there, anchor it to the sidewall so that it's not moving with the mesh. It's maintaining the integrity of the stick and not the mesh. As you move down, there's a lot of ways to do your hockey laces here. It definitely will shape your pocket. It definitely will influence your throw a little bit. I think the most important part about this, you just need to play around with it. But the one thing I feel certain about saying is that the top one should be tighter than the bottom one. And if you have, 3 of them for any reason or 4 of them, they should go in that order. Tightest at the top, loosest at the bottom, and gradually, gradually change it as it goes down so that the ball gradually goes through is guided through that ramp as it comes out. When we talk about the sidewall, we really want to anchor that sidewall to the plastic. If you have a really thin stick, I think you want to consider maybe cutting mesh down even. But what you don't want is a thin stick with a piece of mesh that starts to bunch like this. You want to be able to anchor the mesh to the sidewall here, and you want the diamonds to stay large like this. Okay, so it should appropriately fit that mesh. That's going to be big when it comes to the consistency of your pass. It's going to be more taut up here, and then you're going to skip fewer diamonds as you come down. That's what's going to create this pocket. And then we talked a little bit about that bottom part. You guys don't want to bag here. You don't want the ball to be, sitting way below the plastic, but just, this is enough. You could play around with it a little bit. I found that if you loosen this up a lot, it can tend to whip at the top a little bit. If you tighten it up, it can maybe help that problem or throw a little bit higher. But those are just some quick basics about the stick and our objectives. I'll just go through one more thing when we talk about the stick as a whole. And this has two things I want to talk about. One is for defensive players, and the other is for everybody. So defensive players, more and more over the past couple of years, we've talked about starting to cut down shafts. And big players, small players, young players, old players, there's any number of people who have tried this and had success with it. Long sticks that are shorter allow you to control them more. Now, I'm not advocating for this. I'm just saying if you feel like you're not as good checking, you're not as good at picking up ground balls by your feet, you're not as good knocking down passes, you're not as good escaping with ground balls or making quick plays in transition with your pole, consider cutting a couple inches down. The stick is just going to allow you to control it a little bit more on all those different areas. The stick is going to be in a better position to knock down passes. It's going to be easier to control throwing checks and weaving through traffic. And just the length of the stick is going to allow you to pick up more ground balls right by your feet. So that's something to consider. The last thing is just about some markings on these shafts. I think especially if you're a younger guy, you should mark your stick in a place where your hands are hip width apart and in a choked up position, because this, I think, is the the typical place that we want to play. Now, we're going to bring our hands down here in a shooting position, and I think you should mark that off too. We're going to bring our hands up here for a ground ball position, and I think you can mark that too. But certainly the first level, I think, hands hip width apart, and your hands choked up on the stick, just a couple inches off the bottom of the stick. This, for an offensive player, is the appropriate balance between control and power as we play. It allows us to switch postures quickly, dodge quickly if we need to. And defensively, I think you could do the same kind of thing. The tape is going to be in different parts of your stick because of the longer shaft, but get to a point where you could play a little bit choked up. You can play down if you were to shoot the ball or pick up a full length ground ball. And if you were to really choke up through traffic, where your hands would be. All right, guys, hopefully that's a helpful overview. It was a lot of information, but save this video and come back to it if you're having any issues with your stick. Good luck, guys.